Testing, testing. Okay? Can you hear me? Okay.
We're just going to do a real short hymn sing before we get started, just because it's in the order of service. And it's actually a hymn that's not in your hymnal. It's just called Love is Love is Love is Love. And all you need to know is love, essentially. So, but it's love, love, love. All you need is love, love, love. Kind of like the Beatles song, okay? And then we'll add on to other parts, and if the choir wants to help out a little bit, we'll just have a little fun with this, and then we'll start the service. So just start playing the chords. Let's start with Love, Love, Love the Beatles. Love, love, love. All you need is love. Continue doing that, or here's the second part. Love is love is love is love. Love is love is love is love. Oh, love is love is love is love. Love is love is love. love, love, love. All you need is love, love. You can do whichever part you want now. All you need, love is love, is love, is love. Love is love, is love, is love. Oh, love is love, is love, is love. Love is love. And there's a fourth part that goes, ubi caritas et amor. Ubi caritas et amor. Where there's love, love, love is love. Ubi caritas et amor. Where there's love, love. Now let's all go back to the Beatles, the mantra. Love. One more time. Feel free to harmonize. There you go. Maybe that one. Lovely. Thank you.
Good morning. Welcome to the Community Church of Chapel Hill, Unitarian Universalist. I'm Kathy Putnam, and I'm a member of the Worship Associates Ministry here at the church. I especially want to welcome any visitors or newcomers, and I met a couple this morning, to our church and call your attention to a special note for you. Welcome guests and newcomers on the back side of the order of service. I also want to welcome those of you attending online. The hymn lyrics may be found on the live stream screen, and the complete order of service is available on the link in the Sunday morning email and on the church website. Whoever you are, whomever you love, however you arrived at this beloved place, you are welcome here. A few things to keep in mind. As a congregation, we are requiring that masks be worn at the 9:30 service, while masks are optional at the 11:15 service. Masks will continue to be required for indoor spaces at the 9:30 religious education programs, but will be optional in the RE programs at 11:15. Masks are optional during the in-person Sunday social held immediately following the 11:15 service. The Sunday online social will be hosted by Rachel Rose and will be held at 1 p.m. And the Zoom link is in the weekly announcements and the Sunday morning email. Thank you all for continuing to do what you do to make our congregation welcoming to those with fragile health and compromised immunity. Now please turn off or silence any cell phones to maintain a worshipful experience. And we're happy to welcome Reverend Lisa Garcia Sampson, who will tell us about today's Share the Plate.
Thanks, Kathy. Good morning, everyone. I'm Reverend Lisa Garcia Sampson. I proudly serve as the community minister of this congregation and as the executive director of the Unitarian Universalist Justice Ministry of North Carolina. Last year was the largest activation of North Carolina UUs in our history. Through our UU the Vote campaign, 20 UU congregations came together to write over 34,000 postcards and make over 36,000 calls to voters of color in partnership with Reclaim Our Vote, the New North Carolina Project, and Carolina Jews for Justice. Raise your hand if you participated in postcarding or phone banking. Yes, yes, that's what I'm talking about. And in addition to that, last year, in the face of threats at the polls by extremist groups like the Oath Keepers and the Proud Boys, we organized rapid response interfaith safety teams in partnership with Blueprint, and that included threats by a group named the New Patriots in Orange County. This year, UU Justice NC continues to organize UUs across a dozen of our congregations to work alongside our state partners and powerfully contribute to a transformative movement for justice in our state. A powerful example of that is that this week we anticipate that after a decade of hard work, we are going to pass Medicaid expansion in North Carolina. We are going to expand health coverage to over 600,000 people in our state, and UUs played a huge role in that work. Through our letters to the editor, during our calls during Friday Action Hour, legislative visits by folks like Melva, through our Valentines that the children and youth of this congregation and UU churches across the state made and delivered to our legislators, we helped to get that over the finish line. That is no small thing. And we need to remember our power and the power of this united, progressive movement in our state, because any day now, we expect that a bill to further restrict abortion access in North Carolina will be introduced in the General Assembly. And I want to thank everyone who turned out 2 weeks ago for our faith-based abortion rights advocacy day, joining people of faith from across the state. The time is now to show up for these issues. And in addition to that, already in our legislature, we continue to be under attack through our voting rights, our LGBTQ youth with the Don't Say Gay bill, our education funding, and so much more is under attack in our state legislature and in the courts. So now more than ever, UUs need to be organized and activated with a deep faith that a new day is possible in North Carolina, and that together we are building a movement that maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but someday will create a North Carolina where everyone has the ability to thrive. This is where faith comes in, my friends. Do you believe it? Yes, amen. If you're not already engaged in our work, you can join us. Visit our new website, uujusticnc.org. And from the bottom of my heart, thank you for your continued support and investment in our work. Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa, and for everything you're doing to make this happen. Please stand in body or spirit for our opening hymn, number 188, in the gray hymnal, Come, Come, Whoever You Are.
We'll sing this a couple times together, then we'll do it, I think, as just a two-part round. Come, come, whoever you are, wanderer, worshiper, lover of leaving. Ours is no caravan of despair. Come yet again. Let's sing one more time in unison. Come, come.
Into this hour, we bring our hunger for awakening and our yearning for belonging, for community. We know that we have our own path to walk. We also know we need companions on this journey. Into this hour, we bring our unique strengths and gifts and our flaws and limitations. We are assured that we are enough, that we are participants in the creation of this village. May we, in this hour, know that this community has a place for us. We matter, we are loved. May we find here the peace of stillness, the joy of fellowship, and the beauty in each other's faces. Come, let us worship together. You'll find the words for our chalice lighting in your order of service, and if you wish to do so, please join me in reading them. We are here to abet creation and to witness to it, to notice each other's beautiful face and complex nature, so that creation need not play to an empty house.
Steve just pointed out that this song has a lyric, rooftops crowned with snow, and so it was nice that we have there might be like a hint of that on rooftops today. So listen for that.
Thank you all for coming out on this morning with a few snowflakes out there. I was worried when the snow started that I'd have to just preach to the choir this morning. Not that I mind that, but thank you all for being here. Each week we hold in our service a time for sharing the joys and the sorrows that we bring with us into this community. It's during this time, if you've come with either a personal joy or a personal sorrow to share, you're invited to come forward, place a stone in the water bowl, and briefly share your joy or your sorrow. Let us enter into this time of trust. Are there any joys and sorrows this morning?
I'm Melva Oken, and I want to express my extreme joy that we have Lisa Garcia Sampson, not only in our state, but here working with our church. There is no movement without some good leaders, so thank you, Lisa.
I'm Jane Proven. I feel like I've been up a lot in the last couple of weeks, but our Duke School community, where I taught for 20 years, lost a former colleague of mine, Sharon Bushnell, who was an incredible preschool teacher and leader in the early childhood community, who suffered from her early 20s after having 2 bouts of thyroid cancer, and over many, many years, she was my age, lost a lot of her airway, ended up with a tracheotomy, and then in and out of the hospital with pneumonia over the years, and finally it took her about a week or so ago. So I remember her with great love, friendship, and respect, and wish her family much support during this difficult time.
Hi, I'm Grace Siplon. Some of you I know very well, some of you are complete strangers to me. I came up in this church, I came of age in this church, and if you didn't know me well but were around, you might recognize me from being in every opportunity to do theater here, which brings me to my joy. As of 2 months ago, I achieved my greatest goal, which was to start my own theater company. So Blue Box Theater is putting up our first show, which is based almost entirely around a piece, I wrote it, about my Unitarian faith. So it is called Milk and Honey Whiskey, and it's about having a complex relationship to faith in times of tragedy. And it's going up. So the final 2 weeks of this month at the Seymour Center, because we find cheap places that do good work, it will be open. So I'm happy to tell anybody about that if you find me after the show. And I just want to thank this community for bringing me up and making me a theater person. So thank you very much.
Hi, I'm Shannon Tileman, and I just wanted to draw people's attention to the tragic loss in our community of a 15-year-old boy who drowned in Lake Jordan. They finally found his body. He was one of our own. He was from Carborough High School. His name is Roberto Delotto, and just keeping him and his family and all the students at Carborough High School in our hearts today. Thank you.
A final stone is placed for all the joys and sorrows that we hold in our hearts, but that were not spoken. Won't you join with me in a time of prayer and meditation? Spirit of life and love, we begin by holding in our hearts the joys and the sorrows shared this morning. We hold the sorrow of losses in our community. And we hold in our hearts all those who grieve and mourn. And we celebrate together. We celebrate together the gifts of art and creativity and faithfulness and justice. This morning we connect with one of our great human longings, the longing to belong, to find a place where we are known holy, and seen as holy. The longing to find a place where we can be our full selves, not just in part. And we recommit ourselves to being that source of welcome, to extend that feeling of belonging ever among and beyond us. Won't you join with me in a few moments of silence as we reflect on the prayers of our community and the private stirrings of our own heart. Let us be still for a time. Amen. Blessed be. Our next hymn is number 1023 in our hymnal. It's called Building Bridges, and it's a round, right? Are we going to do it as a round? Oh, good. All right. That's I have to check because sometimes I announce the wrong thing. So, Ubi Caritas is not around. This is around. So, let us sing together, and Glenn will show us how.
So I'd like to follow the same pattern we did with the opening hymn. We'll sing it together twice and then try 4 parts. So if the choir wants to help and spread out around there. Building bridges between our divisions. I reach out to you as you reach out to me. With all of our business and all of our visions, friends, we can make such sweet. Once again, together. Building bridges between our divisions. Reach out to you as you reach out to me. With all of our business and all of our visions.
The responsive reading for today is number 568 in the back of the gray hymnal. The congregation will read the words in italics. I'll read all the words so the people listening at home can hear the entire reading. Its connections are made slowly by Marge Piercy. Connections are made slowly. Sometimes they grow underground. You cannot tell always by looking what's happening. More than half a tree is spread out in the soil under your feet. Penetrate quietly as the earthworm that blows no trumpet. Fight persistently as the creeper that brings down the tree. Spread like the squash plant that overruns the garden. Gnaw in the dark and use the sun to make sugar. Weave real connections, create real nodes, build real houses. Live a life you can endure. Make love that is loving. Keep tangling and interweaving and taking more in, a thicket and bramble wilderness to the outside, but to us interconnected with rabbit runs and burrows and layers. Live as if you like yourself, and it may happen. Reach out, keep reaching out, keep bringing in. This is how we are going to live for a long time, not always. For every gardener knows that after the digging, after the planting, after the long season of tending and growth, the harvest comes. Freely have we received gifts that minister to our needs of body and spirit. Gladly we bring to our church and its wide concerns a portion of this bounty. Today our generosity extends beyond our walls as we give to our Share the Plate, UU Justice, North Carolina. If you're writing a check, make it out to the community church and write STP or UU Justice NC in the memo line. And if you wish to donate online, there's a QR code inside the order of service and information on the church's website. We'll now receive the morning offering.
You'll see the lyrics to the chorus of the song are in your order of service, and we'd love for you to sing along when we get to that part, so I'll let you know. We'll do the chorus 3 times. Draw the circle wide.
Draw the circle
The words are in your order of service. If you want to look, draw the circle wide.
Thank you so much. That's actually my sermon this morning, so you don't have to listen to anything I'm about to say. A true story. In August of 2001, I began a position as the intern minister at a wonderful, wonderful Unitarian Universalist congregation in suburban Dallas, Texas, the Horizon UU Church in Carrollton, Texas. And I loved serving there, and that congregation helped me in so many ways to grow into ministry. I started my internship a week after my 24th birthday. Friends, I was really, really, really young. Every year that passes, I look back at it and I think, what? A couple months into my internship, a congregant came up to me after the service and asked me a question, and the conversation went pretty much like this. Congregant, why are you doing your internship at a Unitarian Universalist church? Me. What do you mean? Congregant? I guess I'm just curious about why an evangelical Christian would do an internship at a UU church. Me. You know, I am a Unitarian Universalist. Congregant, get out of here. You don't look like a UU minister. Young guys like you become evangelical youth pastors, right? Me. I assure you, I was very much a Unitarian Universalist. In fact, I was a birthright, lifelong, Boston-raised, grew up spitting distance from Walden Pond, Harvard Divinity School educated Unitarian Universalist. And it wasn't until I attended my first district ministers meeting that I realized that I was just a little bit outside of the mold. I come to think of it, the joke that I would tell about this is that this guy, this congregant assumed that male ministers have a whole lot of bees. And I had none of those. I didn't have a beard. I wasn't bald. I didn't wear bifocals or Birkenstocks or a blazer, and I wasn't a baby boomer. And I want to share two quick reflections about this story. First, I'm a little bit struck and impressed and intrigued by the mental gymnastics to be seen in a UU church and to have this person, easier to believe that I actually belonged somewhere else other than where I was. And he had this whole story that I was actually an evangelical Christian who had somehow wound up doing an internship at a UU church. And this was easier for him to believe than that I was actually where I was supposed to be. And to be fair to him, it was probably his own experience that was the basis for this assumption. His experience was that most people he knew must have grown up Christian, and then some of them found Unitarian Universalism later in life. But in any event, I was somehow beyond his imagination. Which leads me to my second thought about this story. And I want to say something that should be obvious, which is that as a white, male, cisgender, heterosexual, able-bodied person, there haven't been too many times in my life that I've been told I didn't belong. In fact, I think that was the only time in my life when I was told I didn't belong. I mostly have the privilege of nearly never being beyond someone's imagination. And that's what makes this story funny rather than upsetting. If I had been African American or Mexican American or Middle Eastern, or, and I had been told that I didn't belong, then telling this story wouldn't have resulted in our laughing together, right? And it's also important to note that this congregant's assumption about whether I belonged or not was not supported by any sort of systemic power to include or exclude. Ultimately, he had no real power to determine whether I belonged or didn't belong. Think back to that music right before the sermon. Draw the circle wide, make it wider still. Do you find yourself inspired by this song's sentiments? When we met to discuss music for the service, Glenn told me a little bit of the background of this song, which I didn't know. I made the request. I said, this song would fit perfectly. And he gave me a little bit of background. The song is written by a man named Mark Miller. Mark Miller is a Christian. He is gay. He's an African American. And he is kind of a classically trained musician, a choral composer. And he really is writing this song in many ways out of his own experience of wanting to be in a world where that circle is drawn wider. His own experience, sometimes in the gay community, is that he's too Christian, and sometimes in the Christian community, he's too gay, and in the African American community, he's not gospel enough. And so that song is really about this desire to be welcomed in the fullness of who he is. And it's even more than that, it's a very universalist song. Now, classic universalism was the belief that God loves us too much, loves everyone too much, to send anyone to hell. Classic universalism held that God loves us all and loves us all equally. The ramifications of such a faith are significant because at its heart, the promise of universalism is radically multi. The promise of universalism is radically multicultural, multi-ethnic, multiracial, multi-religious, multi-spiritual, multi-generational, multi. If universalism holds that all are equal in God's sight, then the ramification of that is this embrace of all. And if we're all equal in God's sight, then not only do we have to draw the circle wide, but we also have to go even further than that and create a world where nobody is out by the margins, nobody is at the edge of the circle, and nobody gets to be more central than anyone else, and we're all equally loved by the divine. Nobody is just barely loved by God, just enough to get across that border. In fact, the only thing that universalism excludes is the idea that anyone is less than, that anyone is lesser in the eyes of God. So racism and sexism and homophobia and transphobia and xenophobia and ethnocentrism and ageism, all of these run contrary, are antithetical to the spirit of universalism because they imagine God's love as being distributed unequally among the people of the world. It's not enough just to draw the circle wide. Universalism holds that any expression of a central privileged identity is something to be challenged. There's a line we're going to sing in our closing hymn this morning that expresses that idea. Take not for granted a privileged place. God's love embraces the whole human race. So I want to kind of reflect and meditate just a little bit on how radical this idea is, because earlier in the sermon I uttered a sentence that attempted to establish my UU credentials, my UU bona fides. I said, quote, that I was in fact a birthright, lifelong, Boston-raised, grew up spitting distance from Walden Pond, Unitarian Universalist. But this credentialing actually runs contrary to the spirit of universalism that says that God does not play favorites and that therefore we should not play favorites either. And that's a really radical idea. That someone who grew up UU is not any more of a UU than someone who did not, or that someone who's been a UU for a long time is not more UU than someone who's new, or that being a Boston UU is the true kind of UU. That notion is also really radically democratic, right? In our democracy, a person who is a part of the Daughters of the American Revolution, who can trace their ancestry back to those who fought against the British in the late 1700s, counts for just as much, no more and also no less than the newest immigrant. They're all equally American. Your vote counts the same. You have the same rights. Well, at least that's the ideal, right? And to have it be any other way is anti-democratic and anti-American. And that idea is radically decentering, right? That all of us are at the center, and none of us are at the center at the same time. The promise of universalism means that we hold our principles and values at the core of our identity, and that we will have to hold our culture loosely, even playfully. Because identity is not what determines a place in this faith, and appearance is not what determines your place in this faith, and culture is not what determines your place in this faith. That values and principles are what determines your place in this faith. The ramifications of this are very interesting. How do you actually practice that? So I'm going to kind of answer that question. You practice it by drawing the circle wide and by kind of assuming belonging. That when we encounter people, we assume that they belong. We assume that they belong in our church. We assume that they belong in our community. How would it be different? How would things be different if we assumed belonging and started from that point? Assumed belonging without regards to race or gender or sexual orientation or appearance or culture. How would that change if we drew the circle wide? Thank you for indulging in these reflections this morning, and as always, the work of the sermon goes out into you in your welcoming, in your creating of community, and in your working for a world in which no one is told they do not belong. Our closing hymn this morning is number 298. It is Wake Now My Senses, and I want to invite you to rise in body or in spirit and join in singing. The words for Extinguishing the Chalice are in your order of service. Please join me in saying them if you wish to do so. But not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. Now we can thank everyone who made this service possible, including our musicians. Please join in singing Shalom. The words are in your order of service. As you're comfortable, please either hold your hands out with the person next to you or cross your arms over your heart. Shalom, my friends, shalom, my friends, shalom, shalom. We'll meet again, we'll meet again, shalom.
you.